I love stylish action games. It stems from my love for over-the-top action in movies like The Matrix and many different anime, as well as my early exposure to fighting games. With their seamless combat mechanics, cool visuals, and insane boss fights, I can't help but get excited every time I jump into one. And this game I'm here to talk about today is up there at the pinnacle of the genre.
Does anyone mind if I cut in? Wouldn't want to step on anyone's toes.
First of all, we can't talk about Bayonetta 3 without talking about the main character herself. She's iconic in every way, from her design to her style and personality, each of which added to my enjoyment of all three games. It's safe to say she's one of my favorite video game characters. In Bayonetta 3 specifically, we get introduced to so many different designs of her, through masquerade forms and alternate versions of herself due to the game's story, and I thought they were all such great ideas. I don't think the story is the main focus of most stylish action and hack and slash games, and for good reason, because that's not the point of them at all. I see the story as a vessel to have the player travel through fun and unique environments, creating the right atmosphere for us to be immersed in, while at the same time setting us up to run into cool and well-designed characters and enemies along the way. As long as the story fulfills that, and has a great main character driving it all, that's enough for me. The cutscenes here are also very well choreographed, and get absolutely ridiculous at times, making them so fun to watch in between all the action. Even though the story is simple, the characters and action within them entertain enough to keep the excitement flowing as you go through the game. It also helps that this game is very streamlined, with no dull, drawn-out segments in an attempt to pad the runtime. It gets straight to the point and throws us into the action, with something new around every corner. Now, the main thing I'm here for is the gameplay. And this game delivered even more than I expected. It's incredible how much fun it is still, in the third game, to rip through all the enemies with Bayonetta, while trying to remain untouched and pull off all her moves in the most elegant and stylish way possible. And this time round, she has even more toys to play with.
Asking me to come along? Then we'd better be off.
On top of the usual gameplay you can expect from Bayonetta, revolving around torture finishes and my favorite, the witch time mechanic that slows down everything with a nicely timed dodge, Bayonetta 3 introduced giant entities that you can summon at any point during a fight, to smash everything up in varying and very creative new ways. I loved controlling some of the beasts, and my favorite, Madam Butterfly especially, but I have no idea how they managed to come up with an autonomous clock tower and possessed steam train being monsters you can control. This is the kind of insane gameplay I live for when it comes to this genre, and yet another reason why I think this series sits above a majority of the rest.
Right now, we're kind of busy here.
It doesn't even stop there, since in a situation where your summon has been damaged too much, they can break free from your control and start rampaging, attacking both yourself and all the enemies on the screen indiscriminately. Even at this point, you can still use it to your advantage if you're good enough at dodging all their attacks, so there's never a point where you feel like you're out of options in a fight. You can also summon these monsters briefly at the end of specific combos to really deal some damage. It all adds to making the gameplay constantly engaging, since you have to look out for the flash on screen where you can make this attack happen and react in time, while still looking out for other enemies' attacks from every direction. I played on expert difficulty, so this was the story of my life playing the whole way through. You have to be on your toes at all times, and use every tool to your advantage to get the best scores possible by the end of every verse. Because what else matters other than the platinum medal you get at the end of it all? As well as loving each and every new weapon I got to play with, I really like the transformations Bayonetta got with them too this time round. They all come with several unique things they can do when it comes to moving around levels, from flying and even walking on walls. This made traveling around each level even more fun, finding different secrets hidden all over the place, and using specific ones to complete challenges on the map. The game also brought back the usual fight challenges from the series, that have specific conditions you need to meet in order to complete them, as well as many other things to play around with during the chapters, like fighting angels and demons from older games, and challenges outside of fighting, which are always nice to have. All in all, you can expect so many different things to interact with in this game, and if you're a pure lover of stylish action like me, you can spend as much time as you like in the practice mode, trying out all the wacky skills you can pull off after buying them from all the different skill trees, which by the way is always available to be upgraded, since it's easy to build up skill points throughout each chapter, giving you something new to play with almost all the time. Even the accessories add to changing up the gameplay, like the earring that gives you the ability to parry attacks, or the one that gives your summon more damage, but makes them easier to become enraged. It's fully up to you how your fights will go, so take the time to have a look around and try all kinds of things out.
Roll out!
At some point there's even a kaiju fight, a Godzilla rampage mission, building hopping on a giant tarantula, and even a rhythm game segment during a boss fight. This game is completely insane, and nothing is more fun than taunting the enemies to get them angry and more aggressive, only to then deal with them in the coolest way possible. But only if you're good enough, because if you're not ready, it could easily backfire.
All eyes on me now.
Try to keep up. Break!
You would think that whole segment I just went through about the gameplay was more than enough. But this game didn't want to stop there. Instead, they added a whole new character to the mix.
How about you tell us who you are first, Miss...
Viola.
I think Viola is a decent addition to the game. She's not nearly as cool as Bayonetta, but maybe something could change if they develop her further. I like how they've given her pretty much the opposite style from Bayonetta, and she plays well into the over-the-top aspect of Platinum games in general. She has her own style of fighting, with a single katana that can turn into a giant Cheshire Cat that acts independently from her, and instead of a heavy focus on dodging to activate witch time like Bayonetta, you have to block and parry attacks to make that happen with Viola. At first, fighting with her felt slower, and in some ways I still think it is, but once you get used to blocking, things start to flow better. And finally, she has a very cool transformation that I like the look and feel of, but I wish there were more moves you could pull off while in that form. Other than Viola, John, Bayonetta's best friend, is also playable too, both normally after you beat the game and in a little side-scrolling minigame you can play a few times throughout the story. It was similar to a roguelike game with all the temporary upgrades you can get, which was fun, and it never overstayed its welcome. One other piece of side content was a cute little storybook adventure game focused around rhythm that you could play for a little bit, which ended up being sort of a demo to a game they released later on down the line. As you can imagine, this game unfortunately suffers from being on the Switch, since the graphics aren't anything to write home about, and the performance really starts going downhill when there's a lot of things happening on screen. I just can't help but think about what the graphics and performance could have been like had the game been on any other system. However, the creative direction of the game still shines through here in most cases, so there are still a lot of things to appreciate visually. Maybe one day the series may get a remaster on either a newer, more powerful Nintendo console, or if the series is let free to be ported or remade on other platforms. I'd love to see it happen someday. So what's next for Bayonetta? It seems like this was the end of an era with the finale of this game, bringing in both the Bayonettas from the first and second games for one last dance. It created so many questions for the future of the franchise, but it seems that this was most likely the last one, or at least the last one for a while, with the creator of Bayonetta, Hideki Kamiya, also leaving Platinum recently. Even with the uncertain future of the franchise, Platinum have left behind a game for me to enjoy for hours and hours more, even after beating it. There are several more weapons you unlock after beating the game to try out, submissions for every chapter called Bewitchments to complete, a survival mode to really test your skills on, and even a secret boss fight with one of your companions, Rodin, to take on if you're feeling brave. There's so much here to do, and I really appreciate the effort put in to make it all fun for the players. Bayonetta's style and personality perfectly weave into the gameplay, since the more elegant and stylishly you play, the better your results will be by the end of the chapter. Not many games give me the same level of satisfaction that this series does after seeing that platinum trophy show up after I beat a chapter. As a player, you literally become Bayonetta herself the better you get at the game. It's perfect. You become daring and confident, pulling off the wildest attacks with ease and elegance somehow. A mix of things you can only truly experience in a game like this. And it's the reason why I believe it's a blueprint for what stylus action or hack and slash action games should be like. Although there is a series I see as the absolute masterpiece of this formula. But that's for another day. If you haven't played Bayonetta yourself, just watching it isn't enough. I highly recommend giving the series a try if you're able to. And if you have a Switch, playing all three is worth every second.